The Indiana Fever have added Australian forward and ex-Valkyrie, temporarily ex-Valkyrie, Chloe Bibby to the roster. And I did kind of want to go over some of the highlights of the game last night because there are some great things to take away from it. First and foremost, big news, breaking news, Chloe Bibby, who was recently on the Golden State Valkyries, has been signed to the Indiana Fever. This is not a huge surprise to me. I have mentioned it in multiple videos. She was doing really well with the Valkyries. I think she was only with them for about 5 games, while a lot of their players went over to Eurobasket, which I think was like the 19th to the 29th or somewhere along those lines. Like in mid-June, a lot of the Golden State Valkyries players went to play for their national teams for the Eurobasket tournament, and in that time the Golden State Valkyries acquired Chloe Bibby, Letitia Amihir, and Letitia Amihir and Chloe Bibby for a few games were just so good. Letitia Amihir sort of outperformed Chloe Bibby, especially in the rim running area, but Chloe Bibby does have a 3-point shot that Amihir did not exactly have. And truly, honestly, it's like kind of slim pickings out there for who the Indiana Fever could sign. I know that many fans were lying in waiting or lying in wait or whatever the term is for what the Indiana Fever would do. And if you guys remember, I remember this in free agency, the Indiana Fever did take a while. They bided their time or bode their time. Anyway, you get what I'm saying. And making those big free agency signings. A lot of people were wondering what the Indiana Fever were going to do in free agency. And I think that they were taking the same approach here, just kind of like trying to figure out what the landscape was, who was available. And from what I was seeing, there wasn't a lot available out there. I would have loved to sign Amihir, to be honest. But the Golden State Valkyries did end up keeping Letitia Amihir because she's a great person on the roster. She is a great player to come off the bench. Like, she has a crazy wingspan. But you know what? We're not here to talk about Ami here. We're here to talk about Chloe Bibby. And the reason that I think that the Indiana Fever did acquire Bibby was because of her range from deep. Now, Chloe Bibby was coming off the bench for the Golden State Valkyries, so she produced about 13 minutes a game. And in those 13 minutes, she averaged 6.4 points, 2.8 rebounds, and nearly 1 assist, which honestly are pretty solid numbers for 13 minutes a game. I mean, comparatively, you have your stars that average like 35 minutes a game, and you know the stars will put down 19 points. So 6.4 points for 13 minutes is pretty solid. And I do believe that they are going to want Chloe Bibby to come on and stretch the floor out, to play a more modern style of basketball, to run schemes, to play a little bit more out, like 4 out, 5 out. Like, I mean, I don't think AB will be 5 out, so like 4 out. But she did average 42% from the 3, which is above average for a 3-point shooter. And she is 6 feet tall. Now, 6 feet is nothing to write home about, but she does have some length. She is not, 5'6", she's not 5'8", and possibly she could have a screen set for her, get some space, and just like knock down some threes. Do I think this is like going to change the landscape of the Indiana Fever? No, I don't. But I do think it's a low risk, high reward signing. The Indiana Fever were down to 10 players with Caitlin Clark being out, and her signing makes 11. Now, she was just signed to a 7-day contract, which kind of makes me wonder if the Indiana Fever are using this as some sort of like a trial run, because they probably will need to be signing someone through the end of the season. They don't want anyone going out with injury. They don't want to be stuck. And Brianna Turner is, DMP for the most part. And it doesn't look like right now they are counting on Brianna Turner to be stepping in. So Chloe Bibby, again, low risk, high reward. But she also does have the ability to catch and shoot, and she actually performed really well against the Indiana Fever. And so let's just take a look at some of her highlights from that game. Nice assist. So, looks like she can play under the basket, kind of tough her way through defenders. Parlay. Nice catch and shoot right there. Another catch and shoot. pretty nice. Man, this Valkyries crowd though, how crazy does it sound? I cannot wait to go to a Valkyries game. So pumped.
Bibby tracks down the loose ball. Thornton makes up for the missed free throws.
Assist right there, little lob assist over to Thornton. So Chloe Bibby is no slouch, and I think that this was a pretty good addition considering what was out there. I honestly was talking about this in my live. People were asking me, who do you think the Indiana Fever can bring over? And I've already stated Chloe Bibby multiple times, so I didn't want to, beat a dead horse over something that I've said over and over, but because I truly didn't see like who could fit the Indiana Fever system that was available that hasn't already been taken by other teams. It did end up being kind of like the obvious answer, which is Chloe Bibby, who again, I think is a good signing. I don't think is going to change the landscape of the Indiana Fever basketball. I do like that she's young. I do like that she has young legs. I love that she does fit into a more like modern style of basketball, 6 foot, plays outside of the arc. So I am very, 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 very curious to see how she does fit into the Indiana Fever, and she will get a chance to showcase her stuff, to throw her stuff down on the court on Sunday, hopefully, when the Indiana Fever do take on the Chicago Sky for Barbie night. On to the game from last night. First of all, you know what? This wasn't like a game to write home about either. It was nothing crazy happened, but I did see without Caitlin Clark, we're just going to have that with the Indiana. Without Caitlin Clark, this is not like Showtime Fever. However, I'm taking that into consideration, and I'm thinking of this as a team that is developing without Caitlin Clark so that when she comes back, they can hold their own, and I am seeing some great things coming from the Indiana Fever. I am loving AB, even though she's missing some bunnies that are kind of crazy, kind of frustrating me a little bit, but she is starting to kind of develop a three-point shot. Now, she hasn't taken many a game. I think it's 0.8 per game, but her efficiency at the three-point line has gotten so much better. And one of the things that I think about is in unguardable centers, I always think about Jonquel Jones. And the thing that separates Jonquel Jones from almost every other center in the league, anybody that's her size, is the fact that she has a decent three-point shot in her bag. My heart swells every time I see AB take a shot from beyond the three, because this inches her closer to that elite unguardable level center that Jonquel Jones is, because defenders will inevitably have to defend against that, because right now they kind of leave AB open at the three-point shot. And I've seen her not take a lot of wide open threes because, it's not necessarily her forte. But, little by little, I don't think this should be like an overnight progression, but if she little by little starts developing a three-point shot, I think that this only adds another threat the Indiana Fever can have over their defenders, over opposing teams. In other news, Sophie Cunningham is balling in her last few games. In her last 6 games, she is averaging 13.7 points a game, 4.7 rebounds, 3 three-pointers made, and of that, she is shooting 58% from the three. And this is over 6 games. It is a decent amount of games to just say, you know what? She is coming to Indiana to do what they signed her to do. When I was watching her on the Mercury, I would watch her sometimes start, and I actually wrote about this before the season began. I said that Sophie Cunningham could be the veritable X factor for the Indiana Fever. I also mentioned that Sophie Cunningham could work herself into a starting position, and this was when DeWanna Bonner was still the marquee signing. Everyone was so pumped, and nobody saw the future of Sophie Cunningham taking DeWanna Bonner's spot. And I also mentioned that she could definitely be considered for 6th Man of the Year. And according to this post by Polymarket Hoops, the current favorite to win 6th Player of the Year is Sophie Cunningham by over 150, and those are just the gambling odds. Moving on to Aari McDonald, who has been in kind of a slump. A lot of people have been questioning, like, who is this player that is now signed to the team? Because before she was actually signed to the roster for a long-term contract, she was killing it. Now, Aari McDonald has, in my opinion, gotten the yips a little bit, maybe had time adjusting to the system, because when she came into the team, it was just kind of like go, 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 go. There wasn't really time for her to acclimate to like any sort of a system. But Aari McDonald definitely hit the dagger in last night's game, putting the Aces on ice and hitting her 3-point shot. And she needed this. I am so happy for Aari. I'm so happy for the Indiana Fever, to be completely honest, because this is a team without Caitlin Clark right now. This is a team that beat the Aces by 10 points with A'ja Wilson, the current MVP. And, you know, a lot of people think that she's in the running for MVP now because she is putting up some pretty crazy numbers. I definitely think Napheesa Collier and Alyssa Thomas are ahead of A'ja in the MVP category. And I also do want to note that the Aces, in my opinion, are kind of a mess of a team. But going into this game, I thought the Indiana Fever had a good chance of beating them. In my live, we were all talking about this. People were talking about how the Aces are looking better, and they are. They have been looking better since A'ja Wilson came back with her wrist sprain. She's been putting down like 30-point games. But I just have to say, the Aces are as much, if not more of a mess than the Indiana Fever. One thing the Aces do have going for them is that whistle, because oh my God, it was blown so much. I thought this game might go to 3 hours long. One of the most notorious plays was A'ja Wilson's over the back, kind of like what everyone's calling Coldplay hug, you know, the Coldplay concert hug. That was called as a jump ball that was so clearly a foul. Poor AB does not have a very good whistle. And, you know, A'ja Wilson comparatively has one of the best in the league. And Kelsey Mitchell did put down 21 points. I'm telling you, Kelsey Mitchell is a very, very important key player to the Indiana Fever. When she gets going with Caitlin Clark, they're the Splash Sisters. Look at the last half of last season. Kelsey was like consistently putting down 30 pieces. Caitlin was also putting down 30 pieces. They were trading high scores in every game. I'm not on this bandwagon of the smear campaign against Kelsey Mitchell. Yes, her sister said something that was not okay, but we move. It's basketball. Let's focus on the ball. But here are some numbers that Kelsey Mitchell and Caitlin Clark were putting down from the last half of last season. That is after the Olympic break. Caitlin Clark was averaging 24 points a game. Kelsey was averaging 26 points a game. And Kelsey was averaging 4 3-pointers made in every game, shooting 52, 47, 92%. And Caitlin, very similar, 48, 39, 92%. Caitlin can't do this on her own. Having good players around her, having players that you have an idea and a semblance of chemistry with is going to be very important in the final stretch of this season, of which I personally do not believe that Caitlin will be missing more than 2 weeks. That's just my personal opinion from, you know, rumblings going on around the league, rumblings going on behind the scenes. But, you know, I can't speak to that for sure, but that's my guess. So I, for one, cannot wait for Caitlin to get back on the court. It becomes Showtime fever once she gets in her stride. And honestly, the last half of last season is when the Indiana Fever just showed out.